So a little bit about me. I mean, I've been in the martial arts now for 38 years. I can't remember a time in my life when I haven't done martial arts. I've studied with a lot of different people. I've done boxing, kickboxing, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, sambo, but a lot of people don't realize that my actual ranking is in Japanese jiu-jitsu, which is something that I think is a really misunderstood art.
What would you say is some of the bigger differences for the listeners in Japanese jiu-jitsu and Brazilian?
The best way I can describe it is context. So Brazilian jiu-jitsu is designed to be a one-on-one affair, usually under controlled conditions. Not to say that Brazilian jiu-jitsu doesn't have its place in the self-defense arsenal, which we're going to talk about later. But when you understand Japanese jiu-jitsu, the context is a bit different because the history of it was basically a battlefield kind of deal, and it was designed to be very ugly in situations that had many variables, like weapons, multiple opponents, things like that. So if you understand Japanese jiu-jitsu, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's better, because it's not. It's different. And so the reason I think it doesn't get a lot of respect is because people try to put it in the same context as Brazilian jiu-jitsu and say, well, Brazilian jiu-jitsu will beat Japanese jiu-jitsu. And that's generally true one-on-one. But when you're talking about understanding situational awareness, learning how to dissect a battlefield, understanding your surroundings and things like that in order to survive, when your goal is very different than the other person's, Japanese jiu-jitsu is pretty much that. So you have to look at it from a more, I guess the word is tactical perspective rather than competitive perspective.
Would you say that Japanese jiu-jitsu is more for the real world, whereas Brazilian is more for competition?
It depends on what you mean by the real world. I mean, the real world is very elastic in many ways. I mean, like a lot of the situations that Japanese jiu-jitsu was designed for don't exist today. Okay. I mean, nobody's going to draw a sword on you today. Well, I don't know. Maybe it might happen. It's 2020.
It gets wild. It gets wild in Florida. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen in Florida.
The Florida man will, yes, absolutely.
Somewhere in the panhandle. It's not
right.
Correct. Yes. The redneck Riviera. Absolutely.
It's a little different down in old Florida.
Right.